Great. Good morning. Good morning, dear friends. So I can just start to say, before we start the streaming, that we will be streaming this seminar. So we have potentially a much bigger audience than those of you who have come this morning. And it is my very great pleasure to introduce Irina Busygina, who is a professor at the Department for Applied Politics in the National Research University Higher School of Economics in St. Petersburg. Now, Irina has a very long and impressive track record. She has worked on comparative federalism and regionalism, domestic politics in Russia, foreign politics, and her most recent work, which I think she will present, is on Russia-EU relations. The book is called Russia-EU Relations and the Common Neighborhood, Coercion and Authority. Today, however, she will speak to us on the topic of Russian foreign policy as a tool for domestic mobilization. And she has also written a policy brief for us, which will be available, I think, already in paper, but it will be available for free on the internet. So you can go to the NUPI website and find it there. And now, with any further ado, we're looking forward to listening to you, Irina.
Good morning. You don't need to make applause, please. Please, it's too much of a credit for me. So far I didn't deserve it. But I'll try to do my best. I will just make it a little bit change so I could see my slides. So again, good morning to everyone. And let me start with saying that I am very grateful to you all for coming here so early in the morning, although for Norwegian tradition, probably it's not too early, but for Russian, it would be. It would be. We never start something before 10 o'clock. And nevertheless, the people don't come, but you did, so thank you again. And my other very deep and sincere gratitude to NUPI and to Helge, to Maria, to Malin, to all the people who made this trip and my presentation here possible. And again, I will do my best to how should I say it, entertain you, not entertain you, because it's the topic is that probably is not a lot of pleasure about it, but still what I want to preserve you, it's my logic. It is my logic, belongs to me. I will try to explain you how I see the things which are going in Russia, sure, I don't pretend to tell you any final truth, because nobody knows, you don't know, I don't know, but what we could try to explain. And otherwise, what is the reason of us sitting here? So this is one of the possible explanations. Again, this belongs to me, and sure, it contains a lot of logical gaps. I think there are no, but you'll probably see it, since, from the being an outsider, it's easier to see them. And so I hope for your comments that would help me to improve my vision of what is going on in Russia. Okay, and with this, saying this, okay, what I want, what's wrong about Russia? We feel somehow something is happening that we probably don't understand, because the political time goes so fast that we don't have the distance to explain what was the reason of Russia's activity in this and that and so on and so forth. And the question arises, which already arose once, is whether Russia is normal. Probably you remember the famous article of Schleifer and Treisman, who once wrote, I think it was like 15 or 17 even years ago, the question of the article was whether Russia was normal. And what they postulated that yes, Russia is normal, meaning that Russia has the same course of development that other countries. And here we are again with the same catch-up modernization. It was a critique to the article saying that no, by other scholars saying no, Russia is not normal. Russia is we don't know, we cannot explain the trajectory The only thing we understand that it is not a normal trajectory, which is not the normal, so to say, course of development. Now here we are with the question again. For some period of time, we didn't ask ourselves that much this question. Now this is again the time when we ask it. And there are not plenty of answers, so what I'm trying to present one of the possible answers. So again, is Russia normal? Is Russia rational? Because again, we talk a lot, sometimes you hear here and there that Putin lives not in our rationality, his own rationality, or he's an irrational actor. If he's an irrational actor, there is no possibilities to understand what he's thinking and doing. Does he have a strategy, tactics, something? Who knows, Again, the question of rationality. Or what is different about Russia? So this pool of questions that I wanted to use as a starting point for my presentation. If we say that something is different, then what is the difference? Is the difference lie in domestic dimension? What is Russia domestically? Well, this is no hope for democratization. For many years, nobody hopes that Russia is going to democratize. These hopes are over for many years, not only about Russia, but for many other countries. No one talks that Russia would be, liberalized and democratized as the Western countries once did. No signs of modernization. How I put there, even in the modest version of Medvedev times, when we talked at least about modernization, at least in the technological and economical way. Probably beyond the military one version, which is discussed in Russia. But this is no big surprise. So this my slide shows that if you look for something special in Russia, this is not about domestic things. So look at the other countries. How I put here, compare other regimes at the post-Soviet space. Are they democratizing? No. Are they modernizing? No. If we, let's take the second large country of the former Soviet space. This is Kazakhstan. Is it democratizing? No. Is it modernizing? Nazarbayev is doing something. He's introducing, to say, cosmetic reforms, trying to improve the state service and, the other operational ideas of the state. But this is without any threat to the incumbent, So any type of operational administrative modernization should not pose any threat to the incumbent, so to Nazarbayev himself. So I mean that domestically Russia is not something. Okay, the territory is larger, and I will come in several minutes to it. The diversity is extreme in Russia. The territory, the diversity, the asymmetries, and so on and so forth. But domestically, what is domestic? Not happening, but not happening in Russia could not pose such a surprise to us. I say that the difference lies in the sphere of foreign policy. And here we are very much surprised that how Russia behaves, meaning that, again, turning to domestic and saying, this country with so many domestic problems, with undone modernization, with this inequality, the level of inequality is immense in Russia, with this regional imbalances in the social and social-economic structure. How can Russia dare to be so active in the field of foreign policy? What is this? And this is not only kind of small moves, but this is a big move, since this is an idea to challenge the world order. This is the idea to bring something new from the country, which domestically, again, has so many problems. Challenging the world order openly, challenging the United States domination in the world. The main direction of this activity level, how I put it here, this is maintaining armed conflict, meaning, by the way, I need to say that what Julia said already, this is the policy brief, and in the policy brief I elaborate more about these things. But for the presentation, I didn't want to copy the policy brief. I didn't want to tell you what if you would like, you could read there. This is a slightly different perspective, which I try to follow. So again, coming to maintaining armed conflicts, this is the Eastern Ukraine. This is the support to the insurgents in the Eastern Ukraine, with Russian military involvement. This is the Syria, successful, not successful, different things. But however, so this is close to Russian territory, military conflicts involvement, direct involvement, or very far from the Russian territory geographically, but still. this is the economic coercion. This is the economic coercion, and the example would be probably here how Russia tries to build a hard coalition in the form of the Eurasian Economic Union, and understanding that the absolute threshold, so absolute influence of Russia to these states is not possible. Russia is trying to use a lot of coercion, virtual and real coercive, primarily economic coercion, or the virtual or really existing threats towards Belarus, towards Armenia, towards Kazakhstan. This is the military posturing. Military posturing, a good word, which I didn't know before Helge told me about it. So this is what I mean here, particularly in this slide. This is the Russia's presence, so virtual presence here and everywhere. So this is the violating of borders here, the simulating of the military operations all the time, the simulation of the operation in Baltic states, in Poland. So this is the military, simulation of military games. You know, if you would or operations. If you would watch the Russian, I think this is federal TV channel Zvezda. This is the one we have for the military inclined purposes. You would see how many things are there associated in the channel. How many programs with this operation of the Russian troops here, there, everywhere. What if, so on and so forth. And what is impressive, that all these things, they go not subsequently, one after the other, but at the same time. At the same time, in many dimensions, close to the territory, far from the territory, virtual, real, and so on and so forth. So this is what I try to show there, that this activity level, what Russia is doing externally, is absolutely incomparable with what it's doing domestically. Domestically, it's almost nothing. It means no reforms. It means, how I also put in the policy brief, there are a project of reforms, and there are also competing projects of the reforms. If you would have the Tito from one side and the Mr. Kudrin from the other side, so the projects of the Russia's modernization are there. What is happening? Nothing. It means it's not. I'm not exaggerating. It is just nothing. So they're lying, and they're not being implemented in any kind of reality. So it looks like the foreign policy agenda is absolutely suppressed, or domestic agenda is absolutely suppressed by foreign policy agenda. Is it rational? And here this is so first we have this immense and surprising activity, answering the question, what is wrong, what is different about Russia. So this is this. The other things is about irrationality. And here I come to my topic, and this is the case of Russia-European Union relations. And here I think this statement is important, that in 2014 Russia has destroyed the status quo that existed before in relations with the European Union, which was beneficial for Russia. Russia has destroyed the status quo, which was very good for Russia, because this status quo allowed the distancing, kind of you do your own thing, I do my own thing, so Russia is doing what Russia wants, the European Union is busy with the internal things, and does not, it's not the strategic partnership, or how you would like to call it, but it's not a conflict. It's not even a tension, or it's a hidden tension, because you don't have mutual sanctions, you can distance without conflict. The possibility of economic cooperation is still there. You want to have broad economic cooperation, please have it. You want to have selective economic cooperation, you can do it. If you would like to modernize Russia, how in Medvedev times, how the probably you remember the partnership for modernization, which was signed between the European Union and Russia under Medvedev times. Even if you would like to return to this idea doesn't. The idea exists, but the partnership for modernization doesn't exist. But even if you would like to come to it again, you would have this possibility. You could do that. This was the status quo. It was good. Again, it was good for the European Union. It was good for Russia. this I put here, no possibility. It was the possibility. I think here's my mistake. Under this status quo, after the destroying of this status quo, there is no possibility of reaching agreement on the common neighborhood countries. And this is very important. What was good, that before this split, under the previous status quo, the problem of the final choice did not exist that much that it exists now. It was a lot of talks that Ukraine has to make a choice either between Russia or in favor of Russia or in favor of the West. But the question of do it now and forever, it was not on the political agenda. Now it is. Now you cannot combine the choice of doing both, or you can hardly combine. Armenia now tries to combine, but we don't know how it will look like. So again, the previous status quo brought Russia so many benefits. What was the reason to destroy it? Why? Here's my book. I don't want to all your attention to it. To draw all your attention to it. But still, so this is what I try to. This is a book where I try to write about these things, about how compatible are two approaches, Russia and the European Union. What was in the 90s, what is now, but not to put it like my idea in the book was not to make a narrative, so to make you a story of, because there are so many books on Russia-EU relations, so you really don't need another one. So my idea was to look at more from the power. It is a book about power instruments and how they correspond to each other and how they can interrelate and how you make a choice in favor of this power instrument or that, and what are the constraints. How many do you have in your toolkit? So this is about this. So it's not about EU and Russia. It's about EU and Russia is an illustration of how different types of power in the international relations, how they interact, and what are the outcomes, what are the effects. So this is. So I will skip it, and I will also skip this because this is also about this, and I will come to. Again, because this is the Russia-EU case, I would like here to stress this is again the seeming or real irrationality of what Russia did, destroying the status quo, since the status quo has been destroyed by Russia and not by the European Union. And the break of the status quo has revealed very, negative also for Russia things, difficult things, which were present, but they were kind of hidden. And now they are on the surface, and you have to work with them. You could not just say, okay, business as usual, and never mind. Now you cannot do it. You cannot do it because the different preferences with regard to the international relations system are absolutely open. Different, I mean, Russia and the European Union, because this is my case here. The non-compatibility of coercive and authority power instruments, how they very badly interrelate to each other, because I explain in the book why, but just to put it here. Principal differences in assessing results, tactic versus strategic. This is important because this is what Russia and the European Union, when we try to find the common ground, this is one of the reasons why it is so difficult to find the common ground in Russia-EU relations since, and this is what also was not so clear before the crisis, and now it is clear. Principal difference in assessing results. I mean that what European Union is doing for reasons we know, this is all strategic. It is long term. When European Union is doing sometimes like conditionality with regards to the other countries, in particular to the common neighborhood countries, European Union does not wait for results tomorrow. It is strategic. The type of power that European Union exercises is strategic by default. In Russia, this is not the case. In Russia, everything is tactic. Everything should be. It's like you don't have time for strategy. It's a different question but it is very important because everything should be solved tomorrow as a success. You cannot wait. The system operates in such a way that you cannot wait. So, but it makes it very different, to assessing results. How when I will give you an example, since I was talking to some people from the Russian Foreign Ministry asking about the European Union, what do you think about the European Union, and they say, European Union, what is the European Union? This act is so marginal, it's so weak, they cannot do anything. And when we go further into the discussion, I understood how they understood this weakness. It was that they cannot, European Union cannot produce results today. This is the weakness. They say European Union is about blah, 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 blah. You are talking and talking and talking and talking, and somehow you come to the results. What a surprise. And then they think, how can the European Union be attractive for the other countries? Russia should be attractive for the other countries because we can show something now. And the European Union could probably show something in the future. What is better? Yeah, sure, Russia is better, but but this is absolutely different time operation in heads, kind of. What is with the time and how what about the expectations? And here we are now with the European Union. Now here with no possibility, and I insist on no possibility, to achieve mutually acceptable strategy vis-a-vis to each other. About strategy, about something long-term that would make commitments from both sides. This is not possible. Selectively, we are still cooperating, sure. Nobody knows what will be the future. But to create commitments for the future, it is not possible. So strategy is not possible. So with all these, I'm trying to show you how much did Russia lose. How much did it lose? What is the rationality? And here's my argument. And my argument is very simple. So, and I didn't put it here, but I will start with saying that it is irrational. It looks like irrational if you look at the foreign policy of Russia as such. If you would not connect foreign policy and domestic policy together as two games which are interrelated by the agency, by the main actor, and this is Mr. Putin. Again, alone what is done in the foreign policy is quite abnormal, quite irrational. But look, connected to the domestic policy, and you will see the different picture. And this different picture is here. That the foreign policy is an instrument, and I would say the most powerful instrument for domestic mobilization in Russia. The question then is why do you need this domestic mobilization? You need this domestic mobilization for preserving power. Very simple argument, in the hands of the incumbent under current constraints and threats. However, the diminishing of domestic threats to the rule of the incumbent, this is you make domestic mobilization to diminish the threats to the rule of the incumbent through foreign policy, but this creates new external threats. So by destroying one threat, you create another threat. So this is the situation. So it is kind of a vicious circle. I would say this. So what are through foreign policy? What kind of domestic mobilization do you have? So this is just to show you. I'm sure you know it, but still, this is the several dimensions of domestic mobilization. So what is done domestically, basically? This is the neoconservative consensus domestically. This is the through the values, through the order, through the patriotism, державность, right values, the справедливость, so the fairness instead of rule of law, and so on and so forth. So this is we are Russians, we are patriots, patriotism, all these stories about patriotism, and so on and so forth. So this is the idea to mobilize the nation through values. We call it conservative. Conservative, it's another discussion where it's conservative or not, and what is conservative, and so on and so forth. But still, we call it like neoconservative consensus. Then the other is the domestic consolidation and mobilization through the restoration of Russia's great power status with confirmations. These need confirmations. This needs success stories. Success stories. You cannot do it with words. The worst thing you could do through propaganda without kind of confirmations. But here you need the restoration to do it through something success stories. And success stories is the one success story is the Crimea. Krym nash. This is it belonged to Ukraine. Now it belongs to us. On nash. It is. So this is the real thing. It is now under Russian sovereignty. It's not the idea that we want, but we have. And this have is very important. And the other success story, which is it's not that much as of Crimea, but still this is the Syria. And now in Syria, so Russia is победоносная война России в Сирии, мы победили, we won over the international terrorism. We won over the Islamic State, which sounds absolutely idiotic, but you know, but still. And now it's the new series and the story that no, it was not the end. Yeah, but okay, we invest further and so on and so forth. So this is Syria. So, and with the special mission, we teach United States a lesson. We teach them a lesson of how to do military operations and of how to fight really fight with terrorism. And to teach US a lesson is a very attractive idea for domestic audience. We teach Americans, these bloody Americans, we teach them something. And then this is the Russia-friendly interpretations of the current international situation and the general idea. So this is where the place of Russia is seen not only, you know, right, like a great power, but globally. So Russia as a producer of the world, of the new world order, meaning as a fighter of chaos. Chaos. The word chaos is also popular. This is the chaos, and what is the chaos? The chaos is a neoliberal capitalist order which does not function anymore, because it's not only in crisis, it's already broken. It is broken because there are so many losers from this order. And I would say there are a lot of reasonable thinking here, you know, not in the presentation, but in the very idea. Since it's not the idea has a lot of argumentation that something is with the neoliberal order. It is probably should be subject to change, and we don't know how and who should be the stakeholders of this, and so on and so forth. But still, in Russia, it is presented that there is a country which knows how, you know, which knows how. And here we have the talk about denationalization, the sovereignization, and so on and so forth, and the world of the great powers, which should be responsible, so to say, they make mutual commitment, and then they're responsible for peace and prosperity and so on and so forth. The other topic which I would like to raise, and this is which is not in my policy brief, but still I believe that it is very important, because all this system, this foreign as domestic as an instrument for domestic, what is basically the reason? What is the pillar? What is the center? And I think really now thinking, because I'm still thinking about this, but what I think now is the threats of various genesis, and combating with the threats is in the central of this system, which in a special way unites foreign and domestic policy in Russia. The threats is very central. This is the threats to the incumbent, real and virtual. This is the external threats to Russia, which, so with these threats, the incumbent, the Mr. Putin, is trying to explain what is going on domestically and also internationally, and why foreign is so much more important than domestic. And then the calculable, how I put here, but unavoidable effect with the combating threats. This is what I'm repeating, but I already say, with the combating old threats or existing threats, you create new threats. What are the domestic threats? And here I put also not only threats, but also challenges. I mean, all that could shake status quo. So this could be threats and challenges together. And I don't want to, probably I don't want to speculate a lot about domestic threats, but still they're needed to be mentioned somehow. This is the territorial size of Russia. This is the problem of governability and connectivity of territory. You know, this is really when you have the you know the map of Russia, and you have when you have the regional interests which contradict to each other, and when you have this the system of the redistribution, I mean economic and financial distribution between the regions, which existing for many years still does not contribute into diminishing the inequality between the regions, and this is the objective, objective threat, not the size as such, but again the governability and connectivity of this size, and from this perspective, probably that we have some plans, and this is the plans to create some 25 agglomerations or 20 agglomerations, and we have already this kind of a map of these agglomerations, and that Mr. Kudrin said that the people should be resettled from where they live now to these agglomerations. The problem is that, again, it's a different topic, but the problem is the agglomerations do not mean necessarily new quality of growth, not at all. There are other conditions, and very important conditions, which are not met in Russia, but still. But this is the territorial side. Then this is the ethnic diversity, another very big problem of Russia, creating threats, creating potential dangers, potential threats, and potential challenges. Chechen Republic. This is what we have, and this is the personal union between Mr. Putin and Mr. Kadyrov. How it's going to operate further, nobody knows. Because it is really about the personal union of two people, or personal agreement between two people. What are the commitments? We don't know, And then this is the newly things in Dagestan. Yes, you probably wrote about this. This is what has happened in Dagestan, with the center trying to destroy the traditional networks of power. With the Dagestan, and this is their informal system of power relations in the Dagestan, and how it is. So it's really something. But we don't have only Chechnya and Dagestan. We have also the other ethnic republics, and this is posed ever existing. This is the territorial size, ethnic diversity. This is the ever existing threats, ever existing dangers. So this is what I want to stress. Any incumbent, be it Mr. Putin, be it Mr. Navalny, be it, I don't know, me, as the president, every would need to cope with these things. So it will you can never get rid of them. You can never. All the time you need to look for a balance, for the settlement, for the management of conflict, for negotiations, bargaining, and so on and so forth, permanently. This is the position of Russian presidents is not easy from this. It's especially difficult. Then you have as a threat the popular discontent and their position. Okay, probably better than me about this. So this is the Mr. Navalny figure, and the popular discontent spreading not only like in previous forms, but by internet and all this, what the internet made possible for the people to connect and to unite, to express their discontent with what is going on in Russia. The threat is also the challenge. Probably the challenge is also preserving this high degree of popularity of the incumbent. Again, this is normal and not normal. So this high degree of popularity is not very abnormal for the post-Soviet political regimes, but still, this is also a kind of the challenge in the form of trap. When you have the degree of popularity like this, like incredible, absolutely incredible, then every single percent is a disaster. Any single or any, I don't know, any decile of the percent is disaster. And you see how they measure it. When they measure it, and you see how our sociologists or our academic and expert sociologists, how they are concerned with this matter, because they now they measured the popularity of Mr. Putin in December, and then in the beginning of January, and then in the end of January, and they found out that it's a little bit, it's a little bit like less than 1%. It is decreasing. The cry is all over the country. Wow, our president is losing its popularity. It's incredible. This is what is this? This is just tiny nothing. But for them it is is it a sign of what? Are they thinking? What is it? What is happening in Russia? We have vacations, 10 days of vacations in Russia. Who is thinking about Mr. Putin in the beginning of January? I would say nobody. I did not. So this is consciously not, maybe unconsciously. So this is all the time it's shaking, you know. It's wow, what's happening? And then this is kind of the new threat, which is all the time before the election campaign. This is the election turnout. How many people? Okay, we know what this election would be. You know that we have Putin has competitors. Yes, Putin has competitors. We can also discuss it if you want later. But this is not the idea that he would win. He should, and not how much people would support him, but the people should go and support him actively. You know, this would be the sign of domestic mobilization. The people should not be indifferent. They should go. You know, this is, and now this is the fight for coming to the election in the schools, in the universities, in the factories, everywhere. You know, with the list. So the people, would you go? You please, you know, give the commitment that you would go to the election. You know. So this is the idea, to make the turnout, to show that the people support Putin actively, not by sitting and looking at the television, but go. So external threats. This is also the whole list of the external threats. Yuli, I am, you know, I know. So this is the very traditional, so to say, traditional already threat for the Russian incumbent. I'm talking so for the ruling group, about the threat to the ruling group. This is the Western attempts to weaken Russia. We know this argument. Though the West does not need strong Russia, the West does need. Although there are so many arguments against this argument, I don't want to tell you about this, but still, this is what is believed. Then it's about chaos. The neoliberal order has collapsed. I already talked about this. This is also the challenge that the coalition at the former Soviet space does not work as Russian president would like it to work. Yes, Russia invests considerable efforts in working it, but it doesn't work as we would like it to work. Then there are constraints on building Russia-Chinese alliance. This is if we make this epochal, this strategic turn from the West to China, then there are idea of building the Russian-Chinese alliance. You know, this is very big doubts that it would ever be doable. You know, this alliance, because since on my idea, I am not an expert in Russia-Chinese relations, but my idea is both are using this alliance instrumentally. So this is instrumentalism in relations, and this is not a strategy. It's not a strategic partnership in any case. Then the external threat is the miscalculation in strategy, as everything is tactics. Russia makes the miscalculation in strategy, and one of the miscalculation, the very good example is the sanctions of the European Union, which Russia never expected the European Union would agree on sanctions, never ever, and not only on the initial agreement on sanctions, but at the prolongation of sanctions. So to create a consensus in the European Union, it was in Russia they thought it would be non-imaginable. Still, it was a miscalculation from the Russian side, and then I also think what the factor which plays also a role is a permanent challenge to not whatsoever, but to Mr. Putin regime is the Western expectations with regard to regime. I don't think that the Russia regime and Mr. Putin personally is indifferent to the Western expectations with regard to him, to the writings about agony of Putin regime, and what I read this article, I don't know, since 10 years at least, about agony, and I never ever thought that agony could be so long, you know. But still, we are still and collapse. It should collapse. Next year it will be it will collapse. It did not collapse, but all this produces, I would say, reasonable irritation with regard to Mr. Putin, who knows about the expectations that they want him to go. They want me to go. They want me to go. They are waiting. They are carefully waiting what I'm doing and when and looking and discussing all my mistakes. And then this is the new threats production. You know, this is, I think, the biggest threat is this comes from this logic. So the Putin restores the greatness of Russia in new conditions. Okay, it's not the greatness of Russia in the bipolar world, but it's new conditions, meaning the different state of the world affairs. And this is the project, how he say, it corresponds to Russian past and the ambition of Russian audience. But how I put it here, and this is what I try to return to the very beginning of my presentation, and talking about Russia's normality. You know, in Russia, you create such a project for Russian. Yeah, you say this is what you deserve. It means that you can sell Russians only the project of this scale. Now you cannot, if Putin tomorrow would wake up and say, okay, let's forget about greatness of Russia, and I will try now to sell you the project normal Russia. It wouldn't work. It would not work, because this propaganda, which agitated the people for several years so much that the people believed in this. You know, now you are kind of, you have to follow this logic that is created by you, which is created by you, and less ambitious project would not work. Russians would not buy something different, at least now. Okay, so and this is the construction of external threats is immanent element of Putin's project. But the other side of this project is the creation of the other pool of threats, which we could unite under the name of economic and political isolation of the country. And these are the conclusions, truly. So this is the conclusions are that this is about, despite the exceptional position of the incumbent in Russia's political system and his extremely high popularity, the threats to him and to his rule are immanent part, are the central part, I would say, to his project, with a tendency to degenerate them. And Russia does not intend to open an open conflict with the West, but proceed from the fact that the West wants an even less and wants to use this opportunity. The calculation is to use this opportunity, that Western non-inclination to start an open conflict with Russia, to use instrumentally this for domestic mobilization and preserve their regime resilience. Thank you very much. I stop here. So how we do it?
Is there a... Oh, is it? So now we proceed as follows. I will just give you two questions, more on the conceptual side, which I'm very interested in. And then we have quite a lot of time for Q&A, so we will immediately open up for questions after that. And then I have to warn the audience that we only take questions that pertain to Irina's talk, and that I'm a very strict chair. So if you speak too long, I will break you off. Irina, however, she has the privilege of speaking today. So I had just two reflections which I'm really interested to hear your comments on, in fact, having read also your policy brief. And I think I would like to return to the question of how different is the Russian political elite's use of foreign policy as a tool for internal politics. And I would challenge you to raise the view a bit and look out on the world. Compared to America, Trump, the Make America Great Again concept, but even more, or interesting perhaps, even the liberal interventionist policies of the West in the Middle East. Aren't all states' foreign policies, to some extent, a tool to create inner cohesion and to confirm our state's superior identity in a way? Even in a small country like Norway, you can observe it. What we do out there in the world creates cohesion in here and convinces us that we are good people. Maybe in a different way than in Russia. Maybe you are big people, maybe you are nice people, but I would like to challenge you on that. This mechanism, how different is it from how it operates in other countries? And I agree that it is different, or the content is different in Russian discourse, but how different is it actually? Then the second question I'm curious about hearing your answer to is that when I listen to your tour de force of the one-sided pictures of the West in Russia and the EU, I come to think of the quite one-sided pictures that are developing in the West on Russia, Whether it is that, Putin must surely, it must fall down soon, or the lack of ability to understand the miscalculation. We will impose sanctions and then Russia will fall apart. No, Russia doesn't fall apart. In fact, as you said, the sanctions have created unity in Russia around the cause of Great Russia. So my question is, building on this observation that these are they're different, and I agree, the Russian trajectory is in a way more frightening, to use that word, but I'm interested in how these processes in Russia and the West, they mirror each other. How do they work? You're interested in the game, domestic politics, Russian external politics. I'm interested in the game, Russian external politics, Western external politics. So the game out there. So put differently, do the actions of the West, how we speak about and relate to the West, have a part in shaping this Russian trajectory at all? So that would be my 2 short questions. Then I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer. And then you will put up your hand for anybody who wants to ask a question, and I will step aside and let you have the mic.
Okay, Julie. Thank you very much. I like how you call this question short. And you give me 2 minutes. Maybe I will try my best doing in 2 minutes, because I have the answer to your questions. First of all, about how different is Russia, because Trump is presenting something to the world and to the America. By the way, he's presenting this also to his domestic audience, and not that much to external audience. And then the Western Alliance in Middle East, and so on and so forth. My idea, probably I was not clear enough. My idea is not that the mechanism is different, since the role of this mission idea, it is basically it's an immanent part of the image of every strong actor in the international relations. It's not, but not the mechanism is different, but the rationality is different. My question was that I absolutely don't mind, or I don't think that Russia is doing something extraordinary, saying now look the world. I have a couple of rules you need to introduce to be better and to be better organized. I have nothing against it, but I really have the question about how rational is the country of doing this, having so much problems domestically, of how can Russia expect to be successful in this? So this is how do we know what happens with Russia, economically? And this is here again the problem of modernization, because the idea is not to pretend that you say something new for the world, but the idea is to make it real. How, and I see here nothing in Russia to make it real. How Russia can think, I'm sorry to speak in probably more than 2 minutes, but for 2 questions. But how can Russia think that, what Russia basically says? We propose a new deal. It's a new grand deal for the West. Let's sit together and discuss the contours, the shape of the new world, whether Russia would be a better position, would be granted a better position, and Russia would be an indispensable player and all this. How do Russia know that the West would say yes? Since Russia wants better position as being a Soviet Union and also in 90s. But Russia is weaker now. So what is the reason of all this? So this is for me, this is not the question of mechanism, but this is the question of absolutely zero chances to promote this project. And this makes me really, asking questions. So this is the first question. And another question is West to Putin, West to Russia, Putin to the West. This is a very good question, which is asked for many times. Who is to blame? Who is to blame? Is the West to blame? Is the West contributed to the current trajectory? Let's put it mildly. Let's don't repeat the word of Mr. Mearsheimer, but Mr. Mearsheimer is a realist, is a strong realist who said, look, who is the West is to blame. This is his famous article. So this is not probably the case. But since my I'm closer to the opinion of it was I think it was Washington Quarterly that the Stoner Weiss and who else it was a very good article asking is what is going on in Russia, is Russian trajectory, is the production of the bad policy from the United States. Yes, too sweet policy or too strong policy? And the answer was no. And my answer is also no. So it's not. This is. I think this is who is to be not to blame, but who is to be grateful. We Russians, we are grateful for our domestic development, not to the foreign development. You know, I don't think that the neither European Union, not the US could change the trajectory of the of what we now have in Russia by any means. You know, I think, and this is it would be my last point. This is also I tried to show in my book that in 90s then the Russian state, I mean the statehood was really weak. Then it was a window of opportunity to do something about Russia, and it was the authority which Russia tried to, the European Union tried to impose on Russia, to Europeanize Russia in a way, meaning that through this type of modernization you would come to Russia as a European country, and Russia looked like signed this commitment. This didn't work, even under conditions that rapprochement with the West was part of the Yeltsin survival strategy. Even under this condition, it didn't work. It did not work, you know, and I am absolutely sure that for the country like Russia, it would never work. It's not Georgia. Russia is not Georgia, where you can do reforms, you could support Saakashvili and say, now look what a wonderful country we have. You know, in 3 years you change everything, you made reforms. This is absolutely not the case in Russia. This is not the case. This is the Russia is very, very large and very unnatural, I would say. You know, so this is not. So the answer is no, basically. Yeah.
My question was actually not on whose guilt. It was more a conceptual question. How can we explain the politics? But we can return to that over coffee. So now we will open the floor. Please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation clearly. And there is a running mic, which will be given to you. People are so modest.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation. You started your presentation by presenting your thinking as your logic. But I think this is a logic that will resonate with a lot of thinkers and analysts in the West, including NUPI, I would have thought. So these are not alien concepts and alien logic to a lot of Western minds. But to what extent do you think that your logic is understood by people close to, well, people making decisions in the Kremlin? Because you were referring to the neoconservative consensus domestically in Russia at the moment. But they are clever people as well. I mean, they have they're just as intelligent and smart as we are, or the opposite as well. I mean, so to what extent is your logic actually understood and acknowledged, and has any hope of gaining ground in the long term in the Kremlin? That's one question. The next obvious question I would have thought from your presentation, when you're talking about the need to produce new external threats, what are the most likely next threats in Putin's production line?
Since Norwegians like to give long questions, you will have the chance to answer before we take more questions. Yeah.
Thank you for the chance to answer. I will start with the second one, and the answer is I don't know. I could imagine some points on the world map. Also in particular in the North Africa, for example. But or I would say if I would be very, very, very bad, I would say the northern Kazakhstan after the death of Nazarbayev, or after Nazarbayev will gone. You know, this will be this would, but it is my guess. So I don't want to be quoted in a way that I said that this will be the next targets of Mr. Putin. No. So this is and the first question is about these people are smart as you and me and you and me, and all of us. So yes, they are smart. Yes, they are intelligent. Basically, I don't know. But this is again my guess. I don't know. I know they are very different from me, for example. This is but I don't think I'm more clever, but different. But in a way, but I don't think this is about smartness or something. I think this is more in Russia, in a way, this is about the structure of priorities. I'm convinced that they understand the logic. You don't need to be really very smart to understand that what you are doing. But this is again the structure of priorities, and what are this is the priorities of professional survival, and this is the short-term priorities. To think like this, you don't need to work in the state structures, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for example. Otherwise your structure of priorities, you can think like this in the kitchen, but and this is not what you think. We basically, I think your question is not how the people think. This is what is how the people act. This is like the same with the corruption. We don't need the honest people. We need the people which don't take bribes. They could be probably absolutely dishonest. Who cares? And this is again, who cares that the people think like you and me? The problem is that people behave as if they don't understand it. And I think this is the basic problem. This is what I know. I'm absolutely sure that our elites understand that economic reforms are unavoidable. Economic modernization is unavoidable. They know it. Yes, they know it. And many of them, with regards to external, many of them, they're integrated very much in the West with the personal ties. They would, I would say, in the other conditions, in the other environment, they would opt for better relations with the West. But they behave differently, and this is the basic problem. What is in the head is not so much. And Julie, I just remembered that you asked about sanctions. May I ask a little bit? Because this is what I thought, that Julie said that sanctions only united Russians, and it didn't create the huge economic losses or the change of the model and so on and so forth. But I think this is exactly the very good example of how we differently in Russia and in the West understand the role of sanctions, because we intend to treat the effect of sanctions immediately. Russia still exists. Nothing happened because of the sanctions, and this is good. In the first term, after the first sanctions, our politicians and parliamentarians said, ha ha ha, what do you mean by sanctions? I will not go to Nizza, I will go to Crimea to have my vacation. It was like ha 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 and a lot of irony. There's no irony now, by the way. And again, this is the understanding that the sanctions, being economic, they are not only for the economy. This is how the other world shows the attitude to you. So this is and absolutely deficit or no trust to the country. So this is symbolic. It's not only sanctions, not about economy. The sanctions, this is the reputational risk, and the reputational risk is strategic risk. And Russians want to, elites, I don't know what they think here, but they behave, and this is because of the system. They behave as if sanctions are situational, but they are not situational. Even if, imagine that Putin tomorrow would give the Crimea back to Ukraine. Who would trust Putin? Nobody. Even if he would do it. So this is the same. The different working with the time. Not thinking that what you are doing now paves the way of the attitude to you in the future. So this is what is lacking. Thank you. Sorry for talking too much.
The question here.
Thank you. My name is Charlotte de Menström. I represent the Norwegian Ship Owners Association. Many thanks for sharing your insightful and very interesting perspectives. My question is actually short. Well, hopefully it is. Protectionism, or the increase of protectionism, is a hot topic on the global stage, at least in shipping. My question is, to what extent do you believe Russia uses protectionism, either rhetorically only or actually in practical terms, as an instrument of, well, foreign policy, but with domestic effects?
Economic protectionism, so you mean?
Protectionism in the sense that they may introduce preferences for national interest in shipping or in other sectors.
Thank you very much for the question. I'm not very much expert in shipping. I'm sorry. Maybe. Yes. Maybe again. You know, I could again, you know, make kind of make a logical guess. You know, I would say that the economically, in Russia the situation is also that politically it's a personalist regime. Okay, it's a system of one person. But economically, the Russian government behaved quite liberally. You know, it is an economic liberalism. This is also one of the contradictions, how you will put it to the conservative agenda and so on and so forth. So the idea is that unless this protectionist thing or protectionist issue is very much important for domestic consolidation, they wouldn't do it. You know, they could do it. They could use it as an instrument. You know, as an instrument for domestic agenda. Again, if it would be a very hot question in the domestic agenda. If not, I don't think it would be in the focus. I don't think so. Again, instrumentally. So it could be this and that. I don't think it would be kind of the more protectionism in any direction as the general course. I don't think so. I don't think so. So I think it would be like situational. Much more situational.
Thank you. Then we have a question here.
Hello, my name is Irina Busygina. I'm from the Norwegian Defense Command and Staff College. You claim that Russia uses tactics and the West the strategics. I would say that it's more a question of will and ability. Russia has the will to use tactics to achieve long-term strategics, whereas the West lacks the will but has the ability. What's your comment to this?
My comment is this: that probably that I slightly disagree with you that Russia use tactics to achieve something strategic, because I don't see something. What is strategic? What is strategic? Because here we are by the important question of what is strategy. Of what is strategy? You know, this is the word strategy is used so many times for so many different things. You know, if I only imagine that still we have Russia and the European Union, we have still strategic partnership, and no one say that we don't have strategic partnership. Do we have strategic partnership? You know, European Union have strategic partnership with China. Is it what is a strategy in it? You know, this is it's surely something very different, you know. So the word strategy, and this is how we use it. Maybe if I would have more time, I would explain more what I mean by strategy. By strategy, I don't mean the sequence of steps. It's not a plan. It's principally different from a plan. Strategy is a game, is a step game. When you know you do this, he do that, then I do this, I do this. It's more like in chess. So this is strategy. And then you come to the winning, but you cooperating. Strategy cannot be in your own. In your strategy, you have to take into consideration what your vis-a-vis are going to do. So this is strategy. And from this perspective, I don't see that Russia, it takes into consideration that Russia calculates the risks and the threats that Russia has from its strategic moves. You know, I don't see this is what is Russia's final goal. Because again, I think that Russia's final goal to reorganize the world is not doable. Absolutely, it's not doable. I think it's not doable also by Trump, but it's a different question. Yes, but in this, you know, case, sense, I mean that this is not non-strategic, because it could only be tactical. Okay, you know, this is another question, and I use this opportunity of your question to say 2 words about whether Putin needs a strategy, because it was also my thinking that one of the hooks which Mr. Putin has for the West is his unpredictability. I am so unpredictable. Think whether I will have my military campaign. This was your question. You know, this is exactly the thing. We expect, but we don't know. And the regime is absolutely, the inner circle is absolutely black, so it's untransparent. So we don't know. We can only guess. You can guess. I can only also only guess. Under this situation, this unpredictability as an asset is not very good compatible with the idea of strategic approach somehow. Or maybe this unpredictability is a part of the strategic approach, but then these people are not as smart as you and me, but much more smarter than we.
Yeah, there's a question here first, and then there, and there.
Mariusz Makowicz, Polish Embassy. One question concerns the Russian diaspora, especially in Baltic states. Is it still an important factor in foreign policy than transferred into internal policy? Second, the memory of the Second World War and Red Army, which liberated half of the Europe, and is still important factor if it concerns the different visions of this period in neighboring countries.
I think these are I hope I understood the questions correctly, and I think these are very good questions. This is especially the second one about the Second World War. But first of all, about the diasporas. The diasporas. Well, this is the important point in the approach, and in particular in the concept of Russian world, Ruski Mir. So this is the idea. If it looks for me logic. If you present a universal project, and what Russia tries to present is a universal project, is a global project, then you need the idea which would unite not only the people within your own borders, but also outside your borders. Also take into account that there are so many of them, so many of Russians living in diaspora, in particular in the former Soviet Union countries, but also abroad. And this is, I don't know the situation particularly in Norway, but I know much better the situation in Germany. And in Germany there are so many Russians, so Russendeutsche, so these people who emigrated there are in particular many of them in Berlin, and this is again the instrument, and this is the instrument which is so easy to play that this is also to play on this instrument, which is also poses a surprise to me. For several years, these people, several years ago, these people who left Russia and also Kazakhstan and the other countries and live now in Germany, they were considered as traitors. These traitors who left Russia. So and now, who are these people? They are not traitors anymore. Who are these people? These are these patriots who live outside Russia, and these people are kind of swallowed it. There are a lot of pro-Putin people there, a lot of pro-Putin there who, and this is again the structure of priorities, and very not in a peculiar logic, the structure of priorities. They support the Putin regime outside Putin's Russia. They don't want to emigrate to Russia back, but they so this is an important channel for Russia. It is an important channel, and the Germany is the focal point for it. And the second question is about Second World War. Extremely important question, since for this neoconservative consensus you need to work with the collective past. And what do you have in the collective past of Russia? What do you have? Ivan the Terrible? Okay, yes, Peter the Great. Yes, Peter the Great. Good. But basically, what else? Elizabeth, Catherine, whom? Marshal Zhukov, whom? And then you don't have the figure which would symbolize your heroic past. But you have the whole period, and again the success story, the winning story, and this is the This is the Second World War. The Second World War is not called in Russia the Second World War. It is called Великая Отечественная война, the Great Patriotic War. And this is enormous how this is, it does unite Russia. You know, it does unite many Russians, and although the people who really fought during this war already, they, you know, there are not many of them still alive, but still it is important. But again, you know, you cannot just take. I think, you know, this is you have to work with the collective past. First, you rename it. You give your own name, not the Second World War, but the Great Patriotic War, talking about the same thing. And then, but then you have to work with it. And in Russia, while writing about it, and in Novaya Gazeta, I think a month ago, it was a good article about that, or 2 months, but for sure I remember it very good. It was when the Russian historians, many of them, and Russian historic sociologists and so on and so forth are writing about the Great Patriotic War, they doesn't mention coalition. They doesn't mention the coalition. They doesn't mention the Second Front. They doesn't mention the Lend-Lease. They doesn't mention, you know, the role of the alliance, you know. So it was considered to be the Russian success, kind of. And then once it was asked in the Federal Channel why it is so, and the answer from the historian professor was that it is too complicated for the Russian ear. Yeah, we want to have the правдивый, но легкий, how to say, honest but easier version of the Second World War. You know, this is how you just have to select. You know, you make a selection. But this is the pillar. This is the main pillar of the collective past. The main pillar again, because we don't have so many other absolutely totally unifying subjects. Totally unifying subjects. Because in Russia, you cannot speculate about the role of the partisan war, you know, a role of, I tried to discuss with my students it was in GIMO, I tried to discuss the blockade of Leningrad. Was it really, how to say, necessary? So many people died, you know, it was absolutely disaster, the blockade of Leningrad. And I tried to discuss, was it fair? I also asked my students to make the very young children fight, you know, like the pioneers and these Komsomol people who all died, you know, under this war. Was it fair, you know? Because how can you send the children to the war like this? And it was, you know, the young people, they were not ready absolutely to discuss it with me, absolutely not. You know, it was like, okay, you know, my idea is that you can discuss everything, but I understood that not everything, not about this period, not about this war. It's like taboos, and this is absolutely. And what was a surprise for me that it was in the young people, not in the older ones, or I don't know, like so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll take 2 questions now because our time is running out. One here and one there.
I might add that Vladimir Putin's younger brother, or whom we never knew, 3-year-old brother, died in the siege of Leningrad. A couple of items. I was at Gorbachev's Into the Cold War speech at Westminster College in Fulton, Missouri, and I'm a former Cold Warrior. The Katyn massacre was my issue. We thought the Cold War was over. We could all be friends, and that was passed. But then the neoconservatives got control in the West. And mentioning Trump, his election, we Americans hoped he would kick the neoconservatives out of power and stop these wars and stop threatening Russia so we could renormalize things. And you mentioned neoconservatives. I sometimes wonder if our neoconservatives like to threaten Russia so that authoritarianism can return, maybe in cahoots with your neoconservatives. But the Ukraine, which was a coup, it wasn't a revolution for about 4 reasons, was a mortal threat to you folks. And of course, Putin used that to justify retaking.
Can I kindly ask you to pose a question?
Julie.
Great, thank
you. With Ukraine as dangerous as it is, how much we are escalating things. We're giving the Ukrainians weapons, and the Pentagon is holding strategic discussions with the Ukrainians, which threatens the possibility of a bilateral defense treaty. How much can you Russians allow us to escalate the Ukraine war? How much longer can you Russians allow us to escalate the Ukraine war?
Hello, my name is Anne Rotjerman. I'm a student at the University of Oslo. And I just would love you to elaborate a bit on how your framework here relates to color revolutions and kind of internal enemy issues. I'm thinking especially about Navalny as a Russian Saakashvili, as Putin called him, and about the NGO legislation. So would you agree that the Kremlin uses the confrontational line with the West to discredit the internal opposition? And if so, is it working? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is, you know, it's the most difficult is to answer direct questions. This is the most difficult because you asked me about us Russians, how you Russians would allow, you know, you know, to escalate the conflict in the Ukraine, and I will give you the direct answer. We would allow. We would allow unless it comes to the direct military threat to Russia itself, because basically you are doing what we want you to do. You know, the problem is whether we can stop you or not. You know, I say we because you said you. Yeah, okay. So I said I'm representing virtual Putin. You know, or I don't know, Russian elites, not Putin, no, because the gender is different. But okay. So this is. Basically, you want what we don't want. You know, Ukraine is a nightmare for Russia. Ukraine is absolutely nightmare. Ukraine is the mirror of Putin, where Putin look at and say, "Whoa, no, I don't want this." You know, this is what could happen to Russia. So, and the Russia loss of Ukraine was very painful, also for personal reasons, because Russia invested so much into Ukraine. So much into the development, into the support to Mr. Yanukovych, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, Ukraine made a final choice. Russia wanted Ukraine to make a final choice. Ukraine made a final choice, but not in favor of Russia. You know. But however, the problem was that Ukraine also didn't make a choice in the West, because my idea that Ukraine currently can make no choice. So this is because the state capacity is lacking. This is no state capacity. The state is not capable. And then unless the state is not capable, also the European Union or the United States could do nothing. You know, you can sell weapons. This is basically what you can do. You know, but you cannot work with a state which is not capable, which is not governed, you know, by Mr. Poroshenko or by anyone. So this is the problem. So, but this is exactly what Russia wants to see, and this also relates to the question of the color revolutions. You know, that the export of color revolution is one of the threat. Yeah, surely not of the challenge. This is a danger, or this is a threat. We say many bad things about color revolutions. That one of the arguments, color revolutions don't make your life better. It makes your life worse, because economically, neither of the countries after the colored revolutions, especially the Ukraine, was not better but worse. So this was, and the state capacity was decreasing tremendously, and so on and so forth. So, but when you sell the weapons to the Ukraine, so basically what you do, you give us Russians the argument, you know, that the Americas is intervening, it is here, and the Americans are not in Ukraine for Ukraine. Because who cares about Ukraine? Do Americans care for Ukraine? What is Ukraine? Nothing. They care for Russia. This is what they want, how they want to influence Russia. This is how it is explained. So you provide us with a good argument how to explain what you're doing. And in this argument, the Ukraine, this is another ground play. This is a play how the Mr. Putin wants to make a play between major powers. This is a play between U.S. and Russia. This is not a play in the Ukraine. Ukraine is already, you know, it's already forgotten in this. But the argumentation, but from the other, it is very, very difficult. With the Ukraine, there is no solution which I would say, oh, okay, do this and that. This is good. You know, it is extremely difficult situation. Extremely. Every option has so many pros and contras. So this is the thing. And about color revolutions, I already said. And then again the about Navalny and this factor that you know what the figure of Navalny. Okay, he's I don't you know who is Navalny. I want to speculate a little bit about Navalny and the West. Navalny is not that much loved in the West. You know, the people believe the Western analysts, at least what I read and how I spoke to the people say, okay, he's an anti-corruption, he's a blogger, he is good, he's wonderful, he's very talented, he's extraordinary, and this is the case. He's an extremely hardworking person, and he's something. He's a personality, and he deserves all, I don't know, respect whatsoever. But whether he's a liberal Democrat or Western type Democrat, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's why the West cannot kind of rely on Navalny anyway, and would not, because the idea is that if tomorrow something happens to Putin, and Navalny would never be, but still we have a fantasy, we can play. Navalny would be the president. The expectations are already there. He already produced the expectations on the West. And the West would not trust Navalny. So he is treated as a nationalist, and this is, and if you read what he was and what he is saying, so this is for sure. So this is Navalny is, I would say this is something one good thing, one very good thing. I think Sobchak is the second good thing. But Navalny is one good thing which happened to Russia, to political Russia, recently. So, and because I respect him very much, but it is not, you know, it's not a card in changing Russia-Western relations in any perspective.
Thank you. Then we have 5 minutes left. So the two gentlemen in front get each their question, but it must be one sentence because we want to leave Irina the last minutes. Thank you.
Jakub Godzimirski from this institute. You have paid some attention to the past, to the role of the past in Russian current politics, and I was really surprised with the fact that the 100th anniversary of the Russian Revolution was not very high on the agenda and discourse. Could you say a few words about what is the role, what is the perception of the Russian Revolution, to what extent this experience of revolution is something that influences the policies of the current regime, and when talking about revolution and the Russian past in the communist period, you cannot forget about two figures that somehow symbolize this period. Lenin
you had
and
your
Stalin.
question.
Lenin and Stalin, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Okay. Then sorry. Yeah. Lenin and Stalin. Irina.
Yeah. So revolution. Okay. This is. I think it was kind of the asymmetric. The 100-year anniversary of the revolution. Of what kind of revolution? There were two revolutions, you know, in the period. Very different, by the way. And so it was very much discussed in the academic crisis. Very much. A lot of conferences. Many people from the West, historians, came to Russia discussing the revolution. But it was not so much discussed in the official crisis, official circles crisis. So I think the idea was that the first idea is that our official discourse doesn't like the word revolution at all, you know, because the colored revolutions, you know. So this is it produces you know, this negative, you know, associations, you know, the word here revolutions, here there revolutions, so better not to talk about revolutions. Yeah, and then they don't understand how the experience of the revolution is ambivalent. And that's why it is not included like the Second World War is included to the collective past as absolutely unifying matter. It's not the case about revolution. And this is exactly, I will now tell you what for me is also a guess, because it's a guess, I don't know, but this is what I suppose. I suppose that this is not by chance that our leadership do not express their final feeling to the figures of Lenin and Stalin, especially to the figure of Stalin, because they want to left it. They want to left it for other situation. They want to keep it. They don't want to make the promises or commitment or saying something concrete about the figure of Stalin, because this is how to say, секретное оружие. So this is the secret weapons of the future, that they could, because this is also probable source of domestic mobilization, by the way. It is not. But still, this is we are very ambivalent by saying, because the official rhetoric allows many discourses about Stalin. Stalin, was the hero, national hero, Stalin was a monster, who killed so many people. Also possible. You can hear this and this. So, but I think it's not by chance that the official people are still keeping more or less silence about it, because it could play the world in the future. I don't wish it my country, but because I understand under what conditions it could be and in what state it could work. But still, it is one of the possible options. Thank you.
Excellent, Irina. Thank you so much. I think you have covered a lot of ground, given us a lot of new knowledge, and it's been entertaining. So thank you so much for coming. Please join me in giving a hand.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then the policy brief, which Irina has written, is just outside the door. So please take one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So good, because